हरि जू की जय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरन मोहन जू की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शत शिशिमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्री गोविंद बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानुगौर्य गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम चैत हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत शिशिमार श्रील भक्ति जीवन जनार्दन गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। तदीय शुभ आविर्भाव तिथि की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Oops, I forgot to send the link. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Shrimar Bhakti Vedanta Narayanitti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha Itanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tar Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yang Pravrajantamanupeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahaka Tara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravobhine Dustang Sarvabhuta Hridayang Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Shrinvatang Svakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Kshiptashtakama Ditaranga Madhe Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hari Bol, everybody. Indira Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, Gargrajji, Yashoda Didi, and Pradyumna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam, everybody. So today we're going to just read one verse, which has a very long purport to it, commentary. And then afterwards we'll read some glorifications that my Gurudev gave of Śrīla Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Gosvāmī Mahārāja. I put the links in the description of this video also, in case you want to find it later. All right, so let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to read from Bhagavat Pravaha. Okay, so remember Krishna and Balaram, they came. Krishna killed Kuvalayapid and beat him by beating him with his own tusks and killing the Kuvalayapid's drivers. And then, so sprinkled with the blood of Kuvalayapid and carrying his tusks on his shoulder, invincible Krishna entered the wrestling arena along with Balaram. Different classes of people saw him in different ways according to their specific relationship with him. Just like a pair of excellently costumed actors, the two mighty armed lords shone splendidly in the arena. Indeed, they overpowered the minds of all onlookers, who opens their eyes wide to drink the nectar of Krishna's face. The residents of Mathura discussed about Krishna and Balaram based on what they had been hearing about them all these days. On Kamsa's orders, Chanura and Mushtika came forward and wrestled with Krishna and Balaram. The women in the audience especially felt compassionate on the charming boys and found this great injustice. They had fortunate the gopis in Vrindavan, who never had to see Krishna in such a piteous condition. Vasudeva and Devaki became aggrieved with sorrow upon seeing the ladies' statements, as they did not know the strength of their sons. As the women were talking, Krishna made up his mind to kill the opponent. After showing their expertise in wrestling and enjoying the fight, Krishna and Balaram killed Chanura and Mushtika respectively, who then trees vomiting blood. Balaram playfully killed another wrestler, Kuta, and Krishna nonchalantly killed Shala and Toshala. As the remaining wrestlers all fled for their lives, Krishna and Balaram danced along with their friends. Except Kamsa, everyone else rejoiced. In a mad rage, Kamsa ordered that Vasudeva, Nanda, Ugrasen, and all the cowherds be punished, and that Krishna and Balaram be driven from the assembly. Krishna became furious and instantly jumped onto the high royal dais. Kamsa took his sword and shield and moved swiftly like a hawk. Krishna, however, grabbed Kamsa by the hair, hurled him down onto the wrestling ring, and jumped atop his chest. And then this part's in the Krishna book, but not in Srimad Bhagavatam. Striking him with his fists, Krishna caused his death. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Kamsa was already dead somehow. To pacify and prove to everyone that Kamsa was now dead, Krishna dragged his dead body in the wrestling ring. Having always thought of Krishna in fear, Kamsa attained Sarupya Mukti. Kamsa's 8 brothers then attacked Krishna, but Balaram easily killed him with his club. The wives of Kamsa lamented for his death. The Lord consoled the widows and had the funeral rites performed for Kamsa and his brothers. Krishna released his parents Devaki and Vasudeva, who then simply stood with joined palms offering respects. Not liking such reverential attitude in his parents, Krishna covered them with his yogamaya and consoled them. Then they raised the boys to their laps and shed tears. Krishna then installed his maternal grandfather, Ugrasen, as king of the Yadus. All right, so then now let's go back to Sārārtha-darśinī. So I'm reading from Srimad Bhagavatam now. Then, O exalted Parikshit, the Supreme Lord Krishna, the son of Devaki, along with Lord Balaram, approached Nanda Maharaj. The two lords embraced him and then again addressed him as follows. Krishna and Balaram said, O Father, you and Yashoda have affectionately maintained us and cared for us so much. Indeed, parents love their children more than their own lives. They are the real father and mother who care for, as they would their own sons, children abandoned by relatives unable to maintain and protect them. And remember, we read a whole thing about this verse. Yeah. We did yesterday. Now you should all return to Vraj, dear father. We shall come to see you, our dear relatives who suffer in separation from us, as soon as we have given some happiness to your well-wishing friends. Thus, calling Nanda Maharaj and the other men of Vraj, the infallible Supreme Lord respectfully honored them with gifts of clothing, jewelry, household utensils, and so on. Okay, so this is where we're reading this verse 25 today. Ityuktasto parishvajya nanda pranaya vivala purayan ashrubir netre saha gopar vrajam yayo. Nanda Maharaj was overwhelmed with affection upon hearing Krishna's words, and his eyes brimmed with tears as he embraced the two lords. Then he went back to Vraj with the cowherd men. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. Although Nanda Maharaj was almost unconscious due to separation from his son, he somehow returned to Vraj. One second, just... No, Hare Krishna, Raj Bhuvan Yadav ji. Okay, so he's almost unconscious due to separation from his son. He somehow returned to Vraj. Krishna and Balaram went to Vasudev's house and lived there happily. Some experts in Ras, who could not tolerate even a slight decrease in prem, object to this incident of Krishna staying away from Vraj. Later on in this purport, we will reconcile their objections with a novel interpretation. May it be accepted by those who appreciate it. Okay, so let's see. The objection is this. One second, I'm just drinking some water. Okay, the objection is this. It is clear that the literal meaning of verses 21 to 25 is unfavorable to prem. Even in all the explanations given, prem is not established, for there is separation of Nanda and Krishna. In this connection, Krishna is a supreme Lord whose pastimes are inscrutable, so he may be able to abandon his father and stay in Mathura. But how could Nanda abandon Krishna and go back to Vraj alone? How could Nanda Maharaj give up Krishna, who is millions of times more dear to him than his own life, for the cows in Vraj? Why did he not take up residence on the outskirts of Mathura instead? Furthermore, the reasons given in the verses for Krishna and Balaram staying in Mathura are weak, only meant to pacify Nanda. Even Krishna and Balaram were not convinced in their minds of what they spoke. After all, the 10th canto only describes that Balaram returned to Vraj, chapter 65, and not Krishna. However, the Padma Puran Uttarakhanda states that after killing all the demons that he had to, up to Dantavakra, Krishna returned to Vraj. There is also evidence in the Bhagavatam 1.11.9. Yar yaryam bujaksha pasasara bhuvan kurun madhun. Sorry. Vata suhridikshaya tatrabda koti pratima kshano bhaved. The residents of Dwarka said, O lotus-eyed Lord, whenever you go away to Mathura, Vrindavan, or Hastinapur to meet your friends and relatives, every moment of your absence seems like a million years. However, these scriptural references do not clearly show the presence of their prem. Nevertheless, just consider the statement of Sri Shukadeva Goswami in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:39-35. Tastata tapyatir viksha swaprasthane yuduttama santavyam asasa premar ayasya iti dotyakai. As Krishna departed, that best of the Yadus saw how the gopis were lamenting, and thus he consoled them by sending a messenger with this loving promise, I will return. The word dottakai, messenger, is in the plural to indicate that Krishna sent many messengers, or one messenger who repeated the same message, I will return, I will return, I will return. What type of words did Krishna use in his message? He used words full of love, sapremai. Krishna said, O gopis, I am leaving you today only because of King Kamsa's invitation to the Dhanur Yagya, which is difficult to refuse. It is not at all by my own desire. After seeing the Dhanur Yagya, I will return the next day. If some other work comes, I will also finish that tomorrow and quickly return the next day. If these words were really what Krishna was thinking, then they would be called sapremai, filled with love. But if they are not, then they are deceitful. We may think that these statements to Nanda Maharaj are similar in purpose to those Krishna made to Vasudeva and Devaki in verse 4 of this chapter to bewilder them. Nalabdho daiva hatayor vaso no bhavarantike yam bala pitrige hasta vindante lalita mudam. Deprived by fate, we could not live with you in Mathura and enjoy the pampered happiness most children enjoy in their parents' home. Perhaps Krishna's words to the gopis are similar. But then, why does Shukadeva Goswami use the words sa-premai to describe Krishna's words to the gopis? If Krishna had returned to Vraj the day after killing Kamsa without considering all his other duties, such as killing Jarasandha, then one could understand that Krishna was concerned with the gopis' love. But if he did otherwise, one can only conclude that he was indifferent to their love. Therefore, the word sa-premai, with love, would be false. Wait, let me reread that 1 second. Perhaps Krishna's words to the gopis are similar. But then why does Krishna use the word sa-premai? If Krishna returned to Vraj without killing them. Okay. The reconciliation of all these objections is as follows. Even though Vasudeva and Devaki are full of prem and cannot be neglected, the devotees in Vraj headed by Nanda Maharaj have prem which is unequaled and unexcelled. Therefore, it would certainly be all the more improper to ignore them. The purpose of Krishna's appearance is to kill the demons and protect the devotees. The purpose of Krishna's appearance to kill the demons and protect the devotees must also be carried out. In addition, Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka and other places must be exhibited, such as kidnapping Rukmini, stealing the Parijata tree, and associating with Yudhishthir. Krishna must also fulfill his promise to the gopis to return after seeing the Dhanur Yagya, the bow sacrifice. Krishna also had to reveal the super excellence of the gopis' love to the world by showing it to Uddhav, the most exalted of the entire retinue of the Lord's devotees in Mathura and Dwarka, and the crown jewel of the learned. Just as a man places his valuable gold within a fire to reveal its purity, Krishna placed his most beloved devotees, the Vraj gopis, in the fire of separation from him in order to manifest the unprecedented quality of their Krishna prem. Having all these activities to carry out, Krishna resorted to his inconceivably powerful Yogamaya potency, and along with Balaram, came before Nanda. At that time, Krishna manifested two separate forms of Nanda, Krishna manifested two separate forms of Nanda and the other devotees present. Okay, he manifested two separate forms of Nanda and the other devotees present, and himself and Balaram as well. I don't understand that sentence. What? At that time, Krishna manifested two separate forms of Nanda and the other devotees present, and himself and Balaram as well. Anyways, Krishna's words to Nanda in verses 21 to 23 and the descriptions of the next two verses, 24 to 25, present by the first. They presented by the first. Oh God, sorry. Maybe I'm just really slow right now. Krishna's words to Nanda in verses 21 to 23 and the descriptions of the next two verses, 24 to 25, presented by the first form, have been explained. Okay. But Krishna and Balaram in their second forms also speak, asking a question. Okay, so this is what Balaram asking their second forms. O Father, we have been raised by you with great affection, but are we just your adopted sons and not your actual sons? Please tell us factually. King Ugrasen and all the Yadavas in this place say that we are only your adopted sons. Therefore, Vasudeva and Devaki, thinking us to be their sons, are showing us excessive affection and trying to keep us here in Mathura indefinitely. They don't permit us to come see you. Though you are their dear friend, they have not even invited you to dine with them. They haven't even invited you to dine with them tomorrow, according to the rules of etiquette. All this time, none of the Yadavas have come to pay you a visit. Being very disturbed, we have run away by force without their knowing to come. By being very disturbed, we have run away by force without their knowing to come to see you. This is the meaning of verse 21, according to the second form of Krishna. And this is what my Gurudeva was explaining, what we read yesterday. In reply to the second form of Nanda, in reply to the second form of Nanda, it's confusing when he writes of. Okay, anyways, in reply to the second form, Nanda said, But my dear Krishna, in a previous life you were Vasudeva's son, as Gargarishi told me in your name-giving ceremony. Prag ayam Vasudevasya kvachij jatas tavatmaja. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-14. I would assume that he also told this to Vasudeva. Therefore, even in this lifetime, Vasudeva is thinking of you, the ocean of all good qualities, as if you were his son, and thus wants to keep you here. I understand, however, that Baladeva is his own proper son, whom he wants to take back home. Now I am asking you a question. Do you think that we, as these people of Mathura say, are only your foster parents? And are you only our foster sons? Krishna answered this question, verse 21, with tears in his eyes. Parents have greater affection for the children born from themselves than they have even for their own bodies and souls. If I were merely your adopted son, then how could I have become millions of times more dear to you than your own lives? Therefore, I will never again even look upon the face of Vasudeva and these other enemies of yours. Then Nanda spoke to Baladev. Darling son Baladev, please tell me what you think in this regard. Then Baladev said in verse 22, Those who raise the children are the real parents. Therefore, I will not stay in Vasudev's house without you and Krishna, even if Brahma himself commands. This verse has been previously explained in a similar way. Nanda Maharaj thought, if I take Baladev with me back to Vraj, then Vasudeva and the other devotees in Mathura will become extremely unhappy. The selfish persons in Mathura, like Kamsa and other demons, have shown enmity to me. But why should I act inimically? While Nanda was pondering over this, Krishna and Balaram suddenly spoke, verse 23. O Father, you should return to Vraj, and we will come later. We will not stay here a moment more than necessary. You know the statement of the Niti Shastra. If one has a relative, what is the need of fire? And if there is a good friend, what is the necessity of medicine? If out of your compassion you cannot tolerate the Yadav's suffering, then listen. We will visit Vasudeva and your relatives and give happiness to your friends by letting them see us. Thus addressed by Krishna and Balaram, Nanda Maharaj embraced them strongly with both arms, just as a miser holds his wealth to his chest and does not let it fall away. It's verse 25. Beside himself with loving affection and his eyes filled with tears of ecstasy, Nanda Maharaj mounted a golden chariot and went off to Vraj. By the power of Yogamaya, one Nanda Maharaj separated from Krishna and went to Vraj alone, while the other Nanda, invisible to the other, remained in Krishna's association in Vraj. In this same way, all the Vraj Gopas, and their animals expanded into two separate manifestations. One set was immersed in an ocean of suffering with Nanda and separation from Krishna, and the other set was immersed in an ocean of bliss along with Nanda and association with Krishna. They existed simultaneously in Vraj without seeing or contacting each other. Wow. This is similar to how Narad Muni saw so many separate manifestations of Krishna in Dwarka. In one place, Devaki was happy caring for Krishna and feeding him, and simultaneously, at another place, Devaki was suffering in separation from Krishna, lamenting, "Alas, alas, why has my son who went out to hunt not returned yet? He must be panged by hunger and thirst." This is stated in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita 5.12. Ashcharyam ekadaikatra vartamanyapi dhruvam parasparam asamprikta sarupanyeva sarvata. How astonishing that though two forms were present in the same place at once, each form was unaware of the other form and did not contact it. Laghu Bhagavatamrita 120 further states, Prakashas tu nabhedeshu ganyate sahino pratak. Prakasha rupas are the same form manifest in many places. Although Krishna's Prakash manifestations are not factually different from him, still, by the influence of his Leela Shakti, a differentiation develops among his self-identities, activities, and so on. This will become clear later on in the chapter on the power of Yogamaya and the story of Bahulashva and Shrutadev. Thus, the two separate manifestations have, respectively, two different purposes. Just as one subjects his precious gold to fire in order to reveal its true form, similarly, it was in order to show to Uddhav, the chief among his personal associates situated in pure love of God, the supreme position of the Vraj Gopis' astonishing prem with its characteristics of divyon mad, divine madness, and chitra jalpa, artful chatter, that Krishna first of all manifested his particular manifestation in the mood of separation. So it is for that reason that Krishna first manifested his particular manifestation in the mood of separation. Upon going to Vraj and witnessing the superiority of this Mahaprem, Uddhav would then announce to the world the supreme excellence of the gopis' loves. He would announce to the world the supreme excellence of the gopis' love in such verses as this. Eta param tanu brito bhuvi gopavadvo Govinda eva nikalatmani rudabhava vanchanti yadbhava bhiyo munayo vayam cha king brahma janma pirananta katasya. Among all persons on earth, these cowherd women alone have actually perfected their embodied lives, for they have achieved the perfection of unalloyed love for Lord Govinda. Their pure love is hankered after by those who fear material existence, by great sages, and by ourselves as well. For one who has tasted the narrations of the infinite Lord, what is the use of taking birth as a high-class Brahman, or even as Lord Brahma himself? That's Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-58. Nayam Shriyonga Unitantarate Prasadha Swaryoshitam Nalina Gandarucham Kutonya Rasotsavebhya Bhujadanda Grihita Kantha Labda Shisham Yadudagad Vrajavallabhinam. When Lord Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Ras Lila, the gopis were embraced by the arms of the Lord. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or other consorts in the spiritual world. Indeed, never was such a thing even imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, whose bodily luster and aroma resemble the lotus flower. What to speak of worldly women who are very beautiful according to material estimation? That was verse 60 in the same chapter 47. Asamaho charanarnujushamahangsyam vrindavane kimapi gulmalatoshadhinam yadustyajam sajanamaryam patam chahitva bhejur mukunda padavim shrutibir vimrigyam. The gopis of Vrindavan have given up the association of their husbands, sons, and other family members who are very difficult to give up. And they have forsaken the path of chastity to take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, Krishna, which one should search for by Vedic knowledge. Oh, let me be fortunate enough to be one of the bushes, creepers, or herbs in Vrindavan, because the gopis trample them and bless them with the dust of their lotus feet. That's the next verse, 61. It's a very famous verse. That one. When these manifested forms of Krishna's devotees in separation later went to Kurukshetra and showed themselves to Vasudeva, Devaki, Rukmini, and others, they made them also attain this wonder of Mahaprem. When Balaram went to Vraj, he also wait, I didn't understand that. Wait, it's saying that all the Vrajvasis who were in separation, when they showed themselves to Vasudeva Devaki, they made Vasudeva Devaki, Rukmini, and others also attain this wonder of Mahaprem. Is that what it's saying? Anyways, when Balaram went to Vraj, he also became astonished upon seeing the madness of pure love in the devotees manifesting separation from Krishna. In order to make it known that the of the gopis and the other Vrajavasis, which Krishna, in order to make it known that the prema of the gopis and the other Vrajavasis, which has Krishna as its object, is permanent and unchanging, Krishna shows the second manifestation of himself with his devotees in the mood of direct association. Thus, by dual usage of the word ahani, days and nights, and the verse Vishoka ahani ninyor kayantya priyacheshtitam, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:39-37, the gopis expressed that they were separated from Krishna only for the duration of 2 days, and not longer than that. It should be understood from this that after Krishna left for Mathura, the gopis specifically attained Krishna's association by singing about his pastimes for 2 days. On going to Vraj, Uddhava as well as the present tense in his statements to Nanda and Yashoda. Hatta kangsam ranga madhe pratipam sarasatvatam yad aha vasamagatya Krishna satyam karoti tat. Having killed Kamsa, the enemy of all the Yadus, in the wrestling arena, Krishna will now surely fulfill his promise to you by coming back. So Uddhava said that to Nanda and Yashoda. Thus, we find in Bhagavatam 10:46, verses 9-13, when Uddhava first entered Vraj, he saw the forms of the devotees manifesting direct association with Krishna. When Uddhava approached Nanda, the cows were mooing loudly with full milk bags and chasing their calves. And the bulls were mooing loudly as engaged in fighting with each other for enjoying the cows. When they're fighting with each other for enjoying the cows. There was the sound of milking cows and the flute. The cowherd men and women appeared splendid with all their ornaments. As they pulled on the churning ropes with their arms, the women of Vraj shone with the splendor of their jingling bangles and their jewels, which reflected the lamp's light. Their hips, breasts, and necklaces moved about, and their faces, adjointed with reddish kumkum, glowed radiantly with the luster of their earrings reflecting from their cheeks. That's chapter 46, verse 45. As the ladies of Vraj loudly sang the glories of lotus-eyed Krishna, their songs blended with the sounds of their churning, ascended to the sky, and dissipated all inauspiciousness in every direction. That's verse 46. 46. By such statements as these, characterizing the ecstasy of direct association with Krishna, we understand the purpose of the second manifestation of Krishna and attain scriptural proof of this. This reminds me of something that that my Param Gurudev said. Let me find it. It's Kriti Ratna. Just about the first forms of Krishna and the Vrajavasis and the second forms, both being together in Vraj at the same time. Let me see what's a key word. Let's type in Viraha. Oops, I went too far. I think this is it. Yes, this is it. Okay. Vaikuntha Darshan. Yeah, okay, this is it. To view happiness and distress equally is actually Vaikuntha Darshan. Okay, so to view happiness and distress equally is actually Vaikuntha Darshan. This is from my Param Gurudev. In such Vaikuntha Darshan, one perceives uniformity in every object and entity. At the same time, this equality is full of distinctiveness. Worldly inequities are not found in the divine realm. In this world, happiness and distress are opposites. In the transcendental world, these same conflicting forces produce a divine mutual uniformity, replete with unique specialities. Happiness and sadness dwell either side of a single path. They advance from opposite directions at the same pace till they meet at a point in the middle. Okay, so they advance from opposite directions at the same pace until they meet at a point in the middle. This middle ground is called Sambhoge Vipralamba, separation and meeting. Vipralambe Sambhog, meeting and separation. Shri Gaurasundar himself is the presiding deity of this juncture. Avirbhav and Tirobhav are the representations of Sambhog and Vipralamba. The apprehension of separation experienced at the moment of meeting increases the intensity of union. The deeper the worry of impending separation that arises in one's heart during meeting, the sweeter the burgeoning flavor of meeting. Likewise, the more acute the impact of meeting, the more the endless current of Vipralamba ras inundates the heart with separation. Such phenomena are illuminated in the life and character of supremely liberated personalities. Yeah, that's from a class that my Gurudev gave. This is published in the book Kriti Ratna, A True Experience of Separation. All right, so now, speaking of separation of Avirbhav and Tirobhav, just the other, like how many days ago, maybe it's like 3 or 4 days ago, was the Tirobhav Tithi of Śrīla Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Gosvāmī Mahārāja. And today is his Avirbhav. So they come just right next to each other. Isn't it so interesting how so many of our acharyas, their Tirobhavs come just before their Avirbhavs? It's like that with Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, with our Gurudev, or Śrīla Bhakti Bhakti Jīvana Bharati Goswami Maharaj is opposite. Anyways, there are lots of instances of that. Hari Bol, Sudevi Didi, Ganga Mataji. So now let's read about there's a little booklet that my Gurudev made in honor of Śrīla Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Gosvāmī Mahārāja, who was a disciple of Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and a very close, dear friend of Śrīla Vāman Goswami Maharaj and my Gurudev, but he grew up with Śrīla Vāman Goswami Maharaj, so they were like childhood friends. And he was very extremely rasik, completely absorbed in the mood of the gopis. Anyways, let's read my Gurudev's glorification of him. An Offering of Transcendental Memories, Part 1. Dedicated to and inspired by Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. An Offering of Transcendental Memories of Prapuja Charan Ashtatara Shatashi Shrimad Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Gosvāmī Mahārāja, Part 1, by Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. This is written on the occasions of his disappearance. 1. His reverence for my Guru Pad Padma. Once my most worshipful Guru Pad Padma, Ashtatara Shatashi Shrimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, accompanied by 5 or 6 sannyasis and 10 to 12 brahmacharis, arrived at Shri Gauravani Vinod Ashram in Subhashpali, Kharagpur, West Bengal. 1 second, just making sure this is okay. Pujapad Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Maharaj, Pujapad Srimad Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Maharaj, and the prominent sannyasis and brahmacharis of Shri Gauriya Vedanta Samiti were present with Śrīla Guru Pad Padma. The founder of that ashram, Pujapad Srimad Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Maharaj, had made grand arrangements for the Vyas Puja of his most worshipful Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Many Vaishnavas gathered for the festival. At the beginning of the function, the disciples of Pujapad Janārdana Maharaj came, on the order of their Gurudev, to offer flowers at the lotus feet of my Gurudev, Ashtatara Shatashi Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, who is seated on a beautifully decorated seat. Śrīla Gurudev directed them to offer flowers at the lotus feet of their Gurudev, Tridandi Swami Srimad Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Maharaj, saying, in regard to worship, it is the injunction of the scriptures to first perform Archan Puja of the lotus feet of one's own Shri Guru Pad Padma, followed by the worship of the feet of one's Param Guru, Grand Spiritual Master, the Guru Parampara, and then Shri Bhagavan. Bhagavan has personally stated, Pratamam tu Guru Pujyam Tataschaiva Mamarchanam Kurvam Siddhim Avapnoti Hyanyata Nishvalam Bhavet. That's from Hari Bhakti Vas 4:344. One must always worship one's Guru first, and only then worship me. If one follows this process properly, one will naturally attain all perfection. But if one neglects this process, everything will be fruitless. Therefore, it is inappropriate to transgress this traditional rule. After that, Paramaradhya Gurudev also instructed his most dear Srimad Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Maharaj to first receive Archan, Pujan, and Pushpanjali from his disciples. Pujapad Srimad Janārdana Maharaj regarded my Guru Pad Padma as his Shiksha Guru. Therefore, without any hesitation, he followed his instruction. His disciples proceeded to joyfully and splendidly worship their Gurudev with 16 articles, Sodasha Upachar, and offer Pushpanjali, flowers. Thereafter, in great jubilation, they all offered flowers at the feet of my Gurudev and received his merciful blessings. Throughout his life, whenever Pujapad Janārdana Maharaj remembered this incident, he always mentioned with tears in his eyes, my Guru Pad Padma's magnanimity, parental affection for his followers, and expertise in Bhakti Siddhanta and his Guru Nishta. A Rasik and Pavuk Bhakta. I first had the darshan of Pujapad Maharaj in 1947 when I came to Sri Devananda Gaudiya Math, the main math of Sri Gaurivaranta Samiti. Then he was a Naishtika brahmachari. It was around that time that he established his illustrious math in Kharagpur. He came to perform Sri Dham Navadip Parikrama under the guidance of my Guru Pad Padma, bringing with him some faithful pilgrims from Sri Shamananda Gaudiya Math, Medinipur. While on the parikrama, Srila Guru Pad Padma would occasionally order him to speak Harikatha, and as he would listen to that Harikatha, Srila Guru Pad Padma would become supremely elated. Pujapad Srimad Janārdana Mahārāja's name at that time was Sri Anantaram Brahmachari. It was from my spending that time in his company that our relationship gradually began to thicken. He was endowed with all the qualities befitting a Vaishnava. His natural disposition was to be sweetly spoken, humble, tolerant, never wanting respect for himself, and always ready to give respect to others. He was well versed in the scriptures like Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujjvala Nilamani, Lalit Madhav, Vidagdha Madhav, Stavamala, Stavavali, the Sri Vaishnav Toshani, and Sri Sārārtha-darśinī commentaries by Śrīla Sanatana Gosvāmī and Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura, respectively, and Śrīla Baladeva Vijibhushan's Gaudiya Bhashya, and he was firmly established in the perfect conclusions, the Siddhanta of Vaishnavism. He was perpetually engaged in speaking Harikatha. Notably, he was a Rasik and Bhavuk Bhakta. As a regulation, he would daily worship Tulsi, behold Arati, mark his whole body with the name of his worshipful goddess Srimati Radhika, and lovingly recite stavas and stutis. Okay, it's 1 week in between his appearance and disappearance days. Okay, 3. His exclusive mood of service to Sri Radha. In his Harikatha, I have particularly observed that he was a Sri Rupanuga Vaishnavacharya. On the aforementioned Vyas Puja festival, daily at the time of Brahma Muhurta, I noticed how he would recite with intense love stavas and stutis like Sri Radhikashtakam, Sri Gandharva Sampradhanashtakam, Sri Vishaka Ananda Dadibhida Stotram, Sri Utkanta Dashakam, Sri Chattu Pushpanjali, Sri Karpanya Panjika Stotram, Sri Utkalika Valari, Sri Radha Kundashtakam, and Sri Govardhan Vas Prarthana Dashakam. When I heard him do this, extreme faith in these stavas and stutis arose within me, and from then on, following his footsteps, I began to recite them. By constantly being in pure association, satsanga, my faith in them increasingly developed. I had heard that among Krishna's Ragatmika associates, the gopis are the topmost. Among them, some have the same affection, samasneha, for Radha and Krishna. Some have more affection for Krishna, Krishna snehadika, and others have more affection for Sri Radha snehadika. Among the Sri Radha snehadika, the gopis headed by Sri Rup Manjari are the foremost, and the Raganuga sadhaks under their guidance are foremost among sadhaks. I have observed this mood in Pujapad Janārdana Maharaj. When he would explain the following verses in his Harikatha, his internal exclusive mood of servitude to Sri Radha would thoroughly manifest. Ha devika kubaragar gadayadya vacha yache nepatya bhuvi danda varurvatarti asya prasadam abudhasya janasya kritva Gandharvike nijagane gananam videhi. Shri Gandharva Samprathanashtakam, verse 2. O Devi Gandharvika, today, in utter desperation, I throw myself on the ground like a stick. Filled with great distress, I implore you with a choked voice to be merciful to this fool and count me as one of your own. Tavai vasmi, na jivami tvaya vina, iti vigyaya devi tvam, nayamam charanantike. Shri Vilap Kusmanjali, verse 96. Hey Devi, Shri Radhike, I am yours, I am yours. I cannot live without you. Knowing this, Please give me a place at your lotus feet. Ashabara Ramrita Sindhu Maya Katanchit Kalo Mayati Gamita Kila Sampratam Hi Tvam Chet Kripa Mai Vidasya Sinaiva Kime Pranar Vrajena Chavaro Rupokari Napi. It's Vilap Kusmanjali 102. O Vororu Radha, it is as rare to find my hope as O Vororu Radha, it is as rare to fulfill my hope as it is to attain an ocean of nectar. But I pass my days greatly longing to fulfill it. Now you must give mercy to this poor, unhappy person. What to speak of my life? Everything, my residing in Vraj, and even my service to Krishna, is useless without your mercy. Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhura Smitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Baradram Tato Mamanyasti Gatir Nakapi. Shri Vishaka Ananda Dad. Sorry. Oh God, I have a hard time saying this word. Shri Vishakananda Dad Pidastotram 131. I worship Srimati Radhika, who has lotus petal eyes. I remember Srimati Radhika, whose face is sweetly smiling, and I speak of her whose heart is melting with compassion. My life has no other purpose than serving her. Venum karani patitam skam shikandam brasham chapita vasanam vrajasunu Yasya kataksha sharaghata vimurchitasya tang radhikam paricharami kadarasena. That's Shri Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi, verse 39. When with Ras will I serve Shri Radha, whose arrow-like sidelong glances causes Shri Nandanandan to faint, the flute to fall from his hands, the peacock feather crown to slip from his head, and his yellow cloth to fall from his body. Yat kinkarishu bahusha kalu kakuvani nityam parasya shikanda mole tasya kadarasa nidhe vrishabhanu jayas tatkeli kunja bhavanangana marjanisyam. That's Shri Radharasa Sudhanidhi, verse 8. O daughter of Vrishabhanu Maharaj, ocean of Ras, that beautiful boy who wears a gracefully tilting peacock feather in his hair is actually the original personality of Godhead. Still, he is always falling at the feet of your maidservants and pitifully begging them with many humble words to gain entrance into your kunja, where the two of you engage in your playful, loving pastimes. My life would be successful if I could even be one stick in the broom of your maidservants. If I could even be one stick in the broom your maidservants use to clean your delightful kunja. Bhaktim na Krishna charane na karomi chartim radha padam bujaraja kanasa hasena tasyadrigan chalani patya vishesha veta taivarayam karishyati dasi buddhim. That's from Sri Radhikashtakam, verse 6 by Srila Narahari Sarkar Ṭhākura, with no translation. His affection for Vaishnavas and his cows. Almost 15 years ago, at the special request of Pujapad Janārdana Maharaj, Pujapad Vaman Maharaj and I went to see him at Shri Gaurvani Vinod Ashram. We were all charmed by the way he served Vaishnavas and by the example he set by doing so. His darling Kalindi, Ganga, Shamala, and other cows would be standing on the veranda, yearning for his affection. He had so much fondness for them. 5. Raganuga and Rupanuga. One day, he, Śrīla Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Gosvāmī Mahārāja, Śrīla Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Mahārāja, very affectionately said to me, Tell me, What is Shri Raganuga and Shri Rupanuga? Are they the same, or does each contain a speciality? I have asked many Vaishnavas, but I was not fully satisfied by their answers. When I heard his question, at first I felt somewhat hesitant to give an answer before someone so well versed in Siddhanta. However, at his repeated insistence, and upon Pujapad Vamana Maharaja's indication, I, like a student under examination, said, according to what I have heard from Sri Guru and Vaishnavas, and from what I have understood from continuous study of Bhakti Shastras, my firm conviction is that if those who develop a greed to attain the beauty of the services and moods of the eternally perfect associates in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhur Ras, as described in the Ras Shastras Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Mani, and perform sadhan bhajan following the eternal perfect moods, the nitya siddha bhav of one of those associates, out of longing to attain the beauty of those services and moods. They are called raganuga sadhaks. However, those who have developed a greed to follow in the footsteps of Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī, his innate form, engaged in serving Radha and Krishna, and accordingly, his eternally perfect and meticulous skill in performing Yugala Seva, his greater affection for Sri Radha Snehadika Bhav, as well as his other moods, and out of an ardent longing to attain the above stated moods, performed sadhan bhajan accordingly. They alone are Rupanuga sadhaks. As an associate of Sri Gaur, Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī has performed sadhan bhajan in this form as a sadhak, and in his spiritual form, Shuddha Sharir, as Rupa Manjari, he serves Srimati Radhika in partiality to her. Only those who follow Sri Rupa in this way, in both of these moods, are Rupanuga. There's a special consideration in this regard. Every Rupanuga is Raganuga, but not every Raganuga is Rupanuga. Hearing this, Pujapad Maharaj became overwhelmed with emotion and said, "Today I have become extremely delighted to hear your deliberation on this. This is what I wanted to hear. Prior to this, no one has so clearly presented to me such a fully perfect and conclusive discernment on this topic." Translated by the Rays of the Harmonist team from the Viraha Smaraka Prakashana. It's a little booklet that they made in honor of his disappearance. So it's now 8:30, so I will end here, and maybe later on I will go live to read part 2 of this offering. Yeah. So, all right. Dandavad pranams, everybody. Oh, I'll do Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, and Dita Mataji, also, sorry. If you look in the description of this video, I gave both links there. So just click on video description. You'll find both links. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. And yeah, later on, I'll try to find something by Śrīla Vamana Gosvāmī Mahārāja and Śrīla Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Mahārāja also, because they were very close. So yeah, I don't know when I'll go live to read, maybe in the evening time. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashata Shishimar Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Gosvāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Gurudeva Ki Jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhakti Vedanta Śrīla Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Goswāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhakti Jīvana Janārdana Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Avirbhav Titi ki jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Swami Mahārāja Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Goswāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswāmī Prabhupada ki jai. Nityal Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki jai. Nityal Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāja ki jai. Shri Rupa Anugagoriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Sharda Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Ṭhākura ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Avishta Bharata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura ki jai. Sārārtha-darśinī vritti ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shinitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavadaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams everybody. And Bhavatarani Mataji, Nri Hari Prabhu, and Kishore Mohan Prabhu, Sudevi Didi, and Yashji. Hari Bol, everybody. Dandavat pranams, everybody. All right. Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Shri Radhe. See you all later on today.